My wife, 49 female, and I, 53 male, were married for 30 years. We have 3 adult children, 2 of which are married with children of their own. Our kids hosted a 30th anniversary party for us, and as a present to my wife, I decided to get her wedding band engraved for a few years. Our mariage had simmered down. We still dutifully worked our careers, and I thought we were both tired at the end of the day. My wife never asked me for anything or tried to talk to me about what else she needed. She claimed to be perfectly content and happy with our way of life at this point. Our kids were out of the house, but they came over all the time. I knew we were ready to retire. My wife was a popular and well-respected woman in town. She worked in the hospital as a speech therapist. I was also pretty popular, but only because I was good at making my wife's friends laugh. I was a natural comic and did a whole bit for them about my wife being the breadwinner. She started to look at me like I was a joke. She didn't understand. Our intimacy levels dropped to a kiss each morning and night. I was pretty sure that whenever we did have sex, my wife had to think of a fantasy to make it more entertaining. I did ask her if she was satisfied with our love life or if she wanted to change something. She said there was nothing we could change. Then corrected herself to, "There's nothing we should change." She said I was the man for the job. So life went on as normal. But I wanted to see what my wife was up to at home. She always had one random weekday off. I installed 2 security cameras, one in the high corner of our front porch and the other in the high corner of our living room, blending in with my prized hunting trophy. I was disappointed that my wife's engraved wedding band still had it returned in the mail 3 weeks after our anniversary party. I asked my wife if she ever got a small package in the mail, reminding her that we were still waiting for her ring. Her expression told me she'd completely forgotten about it. That made me very upset. She said she hadn't gotten a package yet. I was at work the day after that. I checked the camera footage for the past few weeks to see if the package was stolen off our porch. It didn't take me long to find the clip of the mailman 9 days earlier, holding a small package with the rest of our mail. He walked up to the door, grinning ear to ear, and knocked. My wife answered and pulled him in excitedly on the next camera. I watched them make out and undress like fighting cats, unashamed to be all over each other in my house. Clothes were strewn all over the place and in the commotion. The small package slid under the couch. I watched the mailman take my wife to the living room. My wife of 30 years was having an affair with the mailman. I found 3 more clips of her sleeping with him each on the days she had off. And I didn't. I figured the affair had been going on since before I installed cameras. Our whole life together, our children, house careers, all seemed like an illusion. All the time I spent loving and living with my wife was for nothing. She couldn't deny another man, not even after decades spent by my side. It made me feel like our life together wasn't enough for her. Having a committed, loyal husband, 3 successful children, and 4 beautiful grandchildren wasn't enough for her. She had to sleep with another man. For what? What could he offer her that I hadn't already? The fleeting excitement of something new. When it was over, the living room looked exactly as it did before. Except for the small package under the couch. The first thing I did was take the video clips to the post office. I showed the head honcho and filled out a report. He'd assured me that AP would lose his job for this. Then I went home. I walked past my grinning wife straight to the couch, reached under and pulled out the small package. She was surprised and confused that I knew exactly where it was. I pointed to the security camera. She looked, but it took her a few seconds to find it. When she did, she was mortified. Her breathing became deep and rapid, and she looked at me like a scared rabbit. I asked her if there was something else she wanted to confess to, now that she knew about the camera. She stuttered and just started saying no, repeatedly, slowly shaking her head. I was staring at her like I already knew. So she broke down, crying, and sat on the couch, the exact spot. She cheated on me. I screamed at her, essentially asking why she felt like cheating on me and why she actually went through with it. Her excuse was that it was normal for people to fall out of touch. But we didn't have to get divorced because I could do the same thing. I asked her if she even knew what marriage meant. Then I asked her if she remembered her vows, who had dropped. I told her to pack her bags because I wasn't living with a cheating, smelly rodent. Her jaw dropped, and she asked me if I was serious. She couldn't believe I was throwing away 30 years of marriage. I told her she was the one that threw it away. I was just acknowledging it was trash. She started ugly crying. I ignored her for a while and started packing her stuff, but she crawled over to me, trying to touch me. I told her to stop acting like a baby and to own up to her actions. She broke her vows to me, so our contract was null and void. I didn't have to live with her, and since she was the offender, she needed to get out. Well, she called the kids over for support. That was her mistake, because they sided with me and started packing up all her stuff. She couldn't believe it. Her kids and I packed her up and moved her out of the house. She went to stay with our eldest, becoming their full-time nanny in exchange for food and shelter. My son humiliated her by saying she wasn't allowed to have any lovers or strange men in the house, and on nights she got permission to go out. Her curfew was 9 p.m. AP was also humiliated like my wife. He was well known around town. And the truth? Bombs spread fast. The footage was leaked online after I provided it to the post office. He was fired and became a laughingstock. What moron sleeps with a guy's wife in their house while on the job? In perfect view of security cameras. My wife stayed with our son and his family for 8 months before she had enough to get her own place. But it wasn't meant to last. She tried asking our kids for help until she could pay them back, but they denied her, saying she raised them never to lend out money to anyone. My ex bitterly moved back in with our oldest resuming her position as full-time nanny for the foreseeable future. I've been on a few dates with a nice woman, but I decided to try focusing on enjoying myself and who I am. The kids also take me out for pop nights and rebuilding a lot of things about myself that I had smothered trying to make my ex happier. OP, I am so sorry. Your wife of 30 years started an affair with the mailman. It's true that people change and grow over time, but this can be and should be something that brings two people closer. Admire their uniqueness, qualities, and point of view. There's no one exactly like them, and nobody knows every trial and hardship that person has faced. Their way of thinking could be incomprehensible to their spouse, but they can do their best to understand and stay open-minded appreciation for another life. Especially that of the spouse you love knows no limit. When a person gets married, they are promising to resist temptations that lack in comparison to the love they have for their spouse. Love isn't always a feeling, but it is a choice. When you aren't feeling the love you used to for your spouse, choose to love them by remaining loyal and honest. Talk to them about how you feel, even if it hurts and even if it means separating. Cheating is never the answer. And as a person with appreciation for another life, it should never be an option. You handled this exceptionally well, and I thank you for sharing your story. Now, let's get into our second story for today. My ex, 23 female, and I, 27 male, had our honeymoon in Hawaii. My family was well off while hers wasn't. That didn't matter to me, and even though my parents warned me to watch out for this girl, I didn't. She seemed very genuine and sweet. While dating, she always wanted to see me, even if it was as simple as a walk in the park. She hung on to my every word and asked me really smart and observant questions. I was studying to be a lawyer, so I was very busy with schoolwork and reading. For that reason, much of the time we spent together was in silence, her laying on my lap while I worked. I took her on a few classy dates. We went to dinner and a show, an upscale restaurant, and horseback riding. She was really wooed by the date on horseback because I already had the trail memorized in my head. I admit I was showing off a bit. That's when she met my parents, and they warned me about her. I don't know how, but it's like they saw right through her genuinely interested trade. They told me she just wanted the money I promised. She didn't actually know me or what I liked. She only talked about herself and what she wanted. I admitted she was lighthearted and didn't take much seriously, but I thought that's what made us a good match. She could help balance me out and encourage me to have fun. Sometimes when we talk on the phone, she would mention other men in her class, and I'd just roll my eyes. I wondered if she did this to make me jealous, or if she was trying to see how possessive I was of her. I had a serious conversation with her around 2.5 years of dating. I asked her if she knew how serious I was about her, and if she felt the same. She said yes, and swore I was the only one she wanted to love. I could tell she wanted to say for the rest of her life, but she stopped because she didn't want to spoil any proposal. Around our 3rd anniversary, I graduated and regretfully proposed during the wedding planning, and even on our honeymoon, she was very selfish as we tanned on the beach. She actually had the nerve to say she was bored and missed her friends. I had a wonderful time in Hawaii swimming with dolphins, snorkeling, bar hopping, club dancing, and having amazing sex with my new wife. This was like a celebration of life for me. I was finally done with school and married the woman I saw a future with. We were on a tour of the island when all the magic and excitement I had for the future disappeared. The tour concluded, and I was gazing at the view when I noticed my wife wasn't standing by my side. It took me 10 minutes to find her making out with the tour guide in a secluded, overgrown area. I yelled her name in disbelief, asking what the heck she was doing. She pulled away from the kiss. Shocked, I found them, but not guilty or remorseful. She was smirking and put her hands up, saying I caught them. The tour guide apologized and quickly left my death stare. I told her this was exactly what I was afraid of, that she didn't understand how serious in the long-term marriage is. She said something like, "Come on, it's not that big of a deal. It was just a short makeout session for being a great tour guide." She didn't think it should affect me or our marriage at all. I told her she couldn't be more wrong. I left her there yelling after me. I hailed a cab and went to the touring office. I filed a report with the tour guide's name on it and caused so much of a scene that the manager came out and promised me he'd be fired. I walked back to the hotel for all my stuff and called to cancel her credit cards. Leaving her on the island without money was the only way to get through to her. Without doing this, I don't think she ever would have realized how bad it was to make out with someone else on her honeymoon. She only called me once before I got on the plane when I turned off airplane mode. I had 7 or 8 missed calls and 10 voicemails. She was in shock that I left her there. And then she was scared when she realized her credit cards didn't work. We hadn't even added her name to my bank account yet, but I had enough of her information to cancel her credit cards. In the first voicemail she left, she said that she didn't know what she did to deserve this. As it turns out, this wasn't the first time she made out with someone while she was with me. She only made out with the tour guide because he did an excellent job and deserved a unique tip. A few voicemails later, she said how sorry she was and promised me that now she understood the severity of kissing another person. It still sounded like she was trying to convince herself how serious it was. What she really wanted was to convince me to come back for her, or at least buy her a plane ticket home and forget all about this. She said she still wanted to be my wife and hoped I would forgive her like a good husband would. I never responded to any of this. I was a lawyer, and I refused to play her games. I filed for divorce as soon as I landed. She stopped calling me, and I eventually found out she was at her parents' house. I heard through the grapevine that she expected a warm welcome and consolation from them after being stranded in Hawaii, but they only scolded her for losing a good husband so quickly. Her parents were ashamed by her selfish actions and weren't afraid to tell her how bad she messed up. Her friends also tried giving her a dose of reality by refusing to trust her. No one invited her to group outings because they were afraid she'd start making out with their boyfriend. She still complains and started leaving her parents in the middle of the night to hang out with strangers. She posts ridiculous videos online of her drinking too much, making out with people and having a good time, as she puts it, up from her behavior. It seems your wife's only goal is to do whatever she wants and use people. She didn't have money or personal goals, so she did her best to seem like a worthy match for you. I am relieved that you caught her and didn't waste any time trying to patch things up. That usually doesn't work out anyway, especially when there's infidelity so early on in the relationship. Not even a honeymoon in Hawaii was enough for this girl. And if she's ever going to find happiness in life, she needs to take a chill pill. The world doesn't revolve around you, and you can't sail through life by using people. Don't let this woman discourage you from meeting a wiser, more honorable woman when the time is right. Focus on growing as a person, and let people you meet earn your trust. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoy listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care.